It's Mr. Kelly with Good to the Hood, talking about anything and everything that impacts the culture. Today's topic is how the coronavirus is having an impact on the economy. We obviously know that it's impacting the economy because we hear about this constantly on the news, right? Everything on the news is the economy. The president's very concerned about how we're going to get back on track and this kind of thing. But let's dig a little deeper into that and what exactly are we talking about? So, the airline industry in America, and I'm going to keep it, as far as the economy, I'm going to keep it to the United States. I'm not going to really go global because on a global scale, I mean, it's very intricate, more than I know for sure. And that's something that if I did delve into that a little bit, I probably want to have somebody here with me that has a little bit of expertise in that. And I got a couple people in mind. But anyway, so we'll start with the one, a big one that we've heard about on the television there. Is your airlines, right? Airline industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Most of your airports, and I could, again, some of you have heard me before, I could speak for sure about Denver International Airport, which is the 5th largest international airport, right? And it's like in the top 20 airports, I believe, top 20, top 30 airports in the world. So anyway, a huge portion of their flights are just canceled. And that has a domino effect. So let's go ahead and go step by step with that. So as of to date, right now, about 40% of all flights domestically canceled. 40%, okay? Internationally, I don't have those numbers right off the top of my head, but from my understanding, it's pretty huge. Like internationally, we're talking 75% or better done. It could be even higher than the 75%, but that for sure. Because there's just countries you can't even fly to, period, in the story. Can't fly in and out of China. Can't fly in and out of Spain. Can't fly in and out of Italy, as well as a lot of the rest of Europe. So international flights, 75% better for sure. Got to be for sure. I know domestically we're looking at about 40%. So this impacts everything because now nobody's going to buy anything from those particular stores in the airports or the restaurants there. Okay, so if nobody's buying from there, well, guess what? Nobody's delivering there either. So that's impacting those companies because it's all volume based, right? It's all supply and demand. If nobody's ordering hamburgers, nobody's delivering hamburgers. See how that works? And all those employees are impacted. Those restaurants, and a number of restaurants, I venture to say over half of the restaurants in the airport are closed. Not permanently, but everything's on hiatus, okay? And I know that for a fact because I do work at the airport, and I get to see a lot of this firsthand. Okay, so that's just on the airport section. Small businesses. I own a small business, and a number of my friends own small businesses in a number of facets. A small percentage of those are essential businesses, so you're not even in business. So that's greatly impacted. In fact, in the United States, there are roughly 30 million small businesses. Small businesses. This goes from your barbershop, hair salon, janitorial companies, and anything that's similar to that. You got your carpet, right? You got your mechanics, little small bodegas. You got little retail stores, even smaller real estate companies, right? I mean, 30 million small businesses in America greatly affected by this pandemic. Those 30 million small businesses, okay, employ over 60 million Americans. Over 60 million Americans pretty much guaranteed no work at all, right? And that's just a small business side. So now you look at the bigger side. Going back to the airports, United Airlines is saying that they are losing $100 million a day. $100 million in lost revenue per day. And that's not just because of lack of flights. That's because of lack of hours and lack of need for these people that are working. Like if you have guys on the ramp, right, and 50% of your flights are canceled, you don't need those guys on the ramp. Who's throwing the luggage? Well, there's nobody to throw luggage because there's no flight to throw the luggage to, right? And then of course you got your flight attendants, you got your pilots, ticket counter agents, people that clean those specific planes, just the whole gamut, right? It's just trickle down effect all the way through. So our government resolves to fix that is to, if you qualify, give you $1,200. That's $1,200. if you qualify. And truthfully, the vast majority of individuals are going to qualify. My understanding is if you make, as an individual, if you make $75,000 a year or less, you qualify for the 1200. Okay. And of course, if you make more than that, I think you're still eligible. But of course, that'll go down to $500 or whatever. And it's just meant to kind of give you a little bit of a bump and kind of help you get some things. Now, a large portion of the population, last I checked, is 3.8 million Americans have applied for unemployment. The country only has 340 million people or so, give or take. So the 3.8 is already a huge percentage of that. However, the working population, right, it's going to be, so 340 million is every man, woman, and child in America. Okay, so the elderly or those that are retired, take them out of the equation. Children, right, take them out of the equation. I don't know what age you would cut that off at. I mean, most places you can work when you're 15 or 16 years old, right? Like if you're cashier at the Gap or something, or if you're working on fries at McDonald's, right? So you're still a working American. I don't know how that works, but you're probably not working full time. So I don't know all the intricate details in that. But if you take all that out, I would venture to say that the 3.8 million people that applied for unemployment, I mean, that's got to be, I don't know, maybe close to 10% of the actual working population. And it's just going to go up. In fact, during the Great Depression, at its peak, unemployment was at 24.7%. 24.7% of the country was unemployed during the Great Depression. Analysts say that we're absolutely going to hit that number and probably go over it. So what does that mean for the country with that many people unemployed? Crazy thing is, remember I said a lot of people are going to get on unemployment. So as you may or may not know, when you get on unemployment, typically you can ride that out for 6 months to a year, right? A lot of people are going to go ahead and just take an unemployment check for a year. So when this does clear up and it's time to bring people back to work, that's going to cause a little bit of a frenzy in itself, right? It's going to be kind of hectic because not all those people are going to want to come back. Then for those that are adult enough to come back and not sit on their butts, and that's my 2 cents on it, like unemployment's for why you don't have a job. If you can't get a job, get back to work. I'm going to do a whole other thing on that probably at some point in time in the future. But it's your right to sit on the unemployment, for up to a year and if you qualify and that kind of thing. So then when people do start coming back to work, right, how many people are going to want to go back to the same job? So that's going to impact some things there. And I think all the businesses are going to be competing for these employees, specifically entry level, right? Entry level employees, or unskilled labor as it's called sometimes, they're going to really be competing. Employers are going to be competing for those individuals. So a job that maybe used to pay 13, 14, 15 bucks an hour, just to get their staff back in, they're going to pay them 16, 17, 18 bucks an hour. Okay, so on the surface, that sounds good, right? You're like, hey, that's awesome. You know who that really impacts? It impacts that 30 million small business owners that I mentioned. If you have a small little retail boutique, right, type of deal, and it's the owner, and maybe he or she has half a dozen employees that run this retail spot, their margins are extremely thin, and so they probably can't afford to pay you 17, 18, 19 bucks an hour or whatever, right? So a lot of small businesses are going to get swallowed up and probably not come back and bounce back from this, right? It's always a small guy that catches it in the butt. And so what happens? The bigger companies that can't afford to pay that money because they have huge profit margins, the big corporations, and they don't pay all their corporate taxes, they're going to be like, okay, we're going to go ahead and do that and absorb. So what happens is those corporations become even more so powerful. They get bigger. They're going to start monopolizing the whole market. Okay, so that's just on that. Proof of people taking it to the streets is today, into March here, Amazon, there's talks of a strike because the way that they treat their workers is poop. I mean, I know of 3 people that work at Amazon. 2 of them have quit. One of them's still there. And they say, yeah. Now, the people that I know that still work there are kind of in the upper management, so they don't really have too many complaints. But they acknowledge that there's definitely some issues. But your entry-level people, they're getting crapped on. which is crazy because obviously Amazon is the world leader of just online sales and distribution. Like, they're huge. I mean, Bezos is worth like 130 billion, and in part we know why, because he's treating his people like crap, I guess. Because the other huge quasi tech companies, like your Google and your Facebooks and those kinds of things, from what I understand, they treat their people extremely well. And there's actually documentaries on Netflix about that, how well Google and Pixar and Facebook, how they treat their employees. I mean, paid lunches, as in paying for your lunch, not just like, hey, we pay you during your lunch break, but like, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and have chefs cook your food. They do like dry cleaning, free daycare, multiple breaks throughout the day, sleep in nap pods. Like, it's crazy. You got to see some of these things on Netflix, man. It's nuts. So the economy, it's going to be a huge ripple effect, and I think it's really going to change the way that we do business. I think it's really going to change the way how we move forward. I think cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all that, I think it's going to spike. I think it's really going to become something. Everything's being ordered online anyway. I mean, I talked to some of my friends today, and a lot of people are just saying, the heck with it. They're just getting all their groceries delivered, which was kind of a thing anyway, but now it's like really a big deal. DoorDash, who needs to go out? Just have them just bring it to your door, right? And since we're all under quarantine, or stay-at-home orders, or shelter at home, or whatever fancy adjective your town chose to go with, you're staying at home. And you're getting your entertainment, and you're getting your food, your groceries online. You're paying for your stuff online. I don't know how they're going to get these checks to these people, because not everybody has a bank account, but I would assume they're probably going to use social security numbers and maybe mail them to you. That's why they got the census is coming out now. Maybe direct deposit. I don't know how you're going to go to the bank. I don't know. But the economy is definitely going to take a big hit in a big, big way. And if you just sit back and think about it, it's going to be real subtle in certain areas. Because again, when we go back, whenever that is, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, when we go back, there's going to be a resurgence. Because what's going to happen is everything's, okay, the coast is clear, everybody's going to go back to work, and we're already going to compete for jobs and all that. But we're going to go back to work. And then, of course, somebody's going to get it. And there's going to be a spike somewhere. And it's just going to change. I just really feel it's going to change the way we do things in America, potentially globally, honestly. But, as an example, that's not really related, but as an example, so those of you that are old enough to remember, before 9/11 had occurred, you were able to go to the airport with your loved one, walk them all the way to the gate, wave at them in the airplane, and then walk back out. Right? Because of 9/11 and because of safety concerns and terrorist threats and so on and so forth, Homeland Security was created, TSA was created, and now you can't even do that. Now you better just drop your loved one off at the door, or at the arrivals at the airport, drop them off, and go about your merry way, right? And then they got to figure out how to check in and do all that, and they go to the plane by themselves and that kind of thing. That changed because of a drastic thing that had occurred in our history. If this goes on for several months, this is going to qualify as a drastic thing. And it's going to change the way we live. There's going to be pre-COVID and post-COVID, just like there's pre-9/11 and post-9/11. And how exactly it's going to change the economy and change the culture and change people and change how we go about doing business remains to be seen. Just off the top, some of the things that I brought up, I think are things that are going to be pretty good and reasonable to be concerned about. And so I will say that I think whenever there's something dramatic that happens, new facets, new portions of business, there's a resurgence in an innovative explosion. And so there's going to be some new things that come to light at some point in time. They're going to be like, oh, wow, how did we ever get by without this? But they're going to be more necessity because we got to change things. But anyway, this is Mr. Kelly with Good to the Hood. And until next time, peace.